Hey everyone, new and old, welcome to my Dreamworks tier list where we rank every single animated movie of the studio. I decided to go through with this movie marathon after the surprising success, at least for my standards, for my Pixar tier list video. If you haven't checked that out, I'd suggest watching it along with my shorter Monsterverse ranking. If you're new here, I've been watching a lot of movies while doing my college assignments, and I have done some marathons that eventually lead to YouTube videos like this, where I go through each movie and rank them. This is my rating scale I like to score my movies on, and I'd like to emphasize that this is my opinion and it's okay if you guys disagree. Matter of fact, I'm very open to hearing what you guys think about these movies, so be sure to leave a comment down below. For the tier list, this is how it'll correlate to my ratings. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for more videos like this, with occasional gaming or reaction streams every once in a while. Obviously, spoiler alert ahead, and without further ado, let's get started. This movie really impressed me. Had a thought coming in that this was going to be like Bug's Life, but there was very little similarities. Obviously, it's the same outcast ends up with princess storyline, but the plot had a different approach. I like how the real enemy in this was the general, as he was obviously a bad person, but I didn't think that his evil plan was to literally wipe away all the ants. The termite war should have been a hint, but I might have been slow. I thought Insectopia was going to be the main objective of this movie, believing that Z was going to make it there and live there amongst the others. I like how this movie really focused on the colony, and a lot of the characters were interesting and played their role well. There's some funny interactions in this movie as well, like the wasp at the picnic table with the woman being killed, and all the insects immediately snitching on the princess when the general arrives. The romance in this movie doesn't feel forced, and the relationships make sense. As much as I wanted to see more bugs in this movie, it does make sense to focus more on the ant colony. The story and characters were very interesting, honestly surprising since I didn't expect this film to be as good as it was, and it will be sliding into the B tier. The movie is obviously religious and historical, so I don't have much to say about the story. It does a good job introducing Moses' character before he talks to God. I like to see his character development as he realizes his father's ruthless ideals, and even when he still has a love for his brother despite him not changing. The movie kinda removes my attention a bit near the end, as most of it becomes a musical compilation, rushing through a lot of the events, making it seem like filler parts of the story when it isn't. It feels like they are trying to speed up the events at the end, and out of nowhere, I start to pay attention and then the prince's son is dead, and the Hebrews are free. I think the story is good, I just don't think the second half of the film keeps my attention, but the music is a banger. It does its job telling the story of Moses, and is going into the B tier. Solid movie, wasn't really my taste in the story though. I wasn't amazed by how they try to fit into the El Dorado culture, but it wasn't a bad story. The best sequence in this film is Miguel involving himself in the community, showing them the guitar and playing ball. Chell is one of the baddest cartoon women of all time, bro. She was the GOAT of the film, and Tulio better watch out, not gonna lie. El Dorado's unique wildlife was fun to see, but obviously not a huge part of the movie. I don't really have much to say about this film. It's not a bad movie, it's very watchable. It's a solid movie, so it'll go into the C tier. This movie just isn't good. It was a very boring story, even for how short it was. It felt like it was dragging. The rats were easily the only good thing in the movie. They made funny jokes and it ended perfectly with them discussing if the egg or chicken came first. The main characters were nothing great, and the entire plot was just boring. The two decent sequences in this film were Ginger and Bunty escaping the chicken pot pie machine, and also the final sequence of them trying to escape with the plane. I will always appreciate the effort into making these clay model stop motion films because it is, in my opinion, the hardest type of movie to make. Unfortunately, the story was boring and there was not enough good jokes to make the stupidity of the film engaging. This movie will be going into the D tier. This movie was pretty solid. The fighting sequences were good, the characters were solid, and the women were fine as hell. Spike is a GOAT obviously, and the plot was pretty decent. The worst part about this movie is the giant creatures. I think the creatures are cool, but I don't know why they animated more 3D than the rest of the movie. It's a unique art style that just doesn't appeal to me. Marina is a baddie, but like she's actually messed up. Like it took you 10 days to fall in love with your husband's best friend. Like she's actually crazy. The movie isn't outstanding, and the worst part doesn't ruin it, so it's just a solid movie to me. So this movie will also go into the C tier. This movie is amazing. The music is great, the characters are great, and the story perfectly lines up. I like how we start with a bum in Oscar and how he tries to become a somebody. On the other side, we have Lenny who can't become who he's supposed to be. Their stories line up to meet and create an interesting plot with the Shark Slayer title. The funniest characters are easily the jellyfish and octopus. The jokes in this film were actually great, and I have to emphasize that the music was elite. Oscar has a good character development, and Lenny was a good side buddy throughout the movie. The movie had a very good environment, and I love the reflection of the real world in this reef. There are so many small things in this movie that make the movie more complete, like the graffiti fish, the shrimp, and the orcas. Frankie's death was so unexpected, and I'm surprised how it wasn't a tragic or saddening death in a kid's film. Him getting offed by an anchor actually set up the second half really well, and I think there are great sequences in this film. From the first party in the penthouse to the final battle between Lenny and Oscar, this movie consists of great scenes that'll make the watch consistently entertaining. This movie was amazing, and I would definitely rewatch it whenever I can. This movie is going into the A tier. I learned that there are more movies in this franchise, but this is the only one produced by Dreamworks, so this is the only one included. This movie did a really good job at keeping the viewer hooked since they don't show the were-rabbit too soon. Gromit is easily the MVP of this movie, and him not being able to speak made a lot of his interactions much more comedic. I love the plot twist of Wallace being the were-rabbit, since the movie teases it as Hutch throughout the start of the movie. I like the mirrors to King Kong, and I instantly recognized it as soon as Wallace grabbed Lady Toppington. I love the final sequence of this film, and the entire battle happening at the carnival. My favorite scene in this movie is Gromit and Philip pausing their fight to insert a coin into the plane. I honestly didn't think this movie would interest me that much, and it stayed solid throughout, but that final battle definitely moved this up. This is a good movie, and it'll be going into the B tier. This movie had a really fun story and a good lineup of antagonists in my opinion. I like the premise of forest animals waking up after hibernation, and their home has been shrunken into a small park. Every character was decent in my opinion, except for Hammy, who stole the show for me. I think there are a lot of memorable sequences in this film, like the house break-in, the final battle, and Hammy's super speed sequence. Vern was probably my least favorite character in this movie, and it's not because he was so cautious and against RJ the whole time, but I think him giving back the food was a really dumb decision. I don't understand why he would give back the food because he doesn't like that they stole it, and I think it could have worked better if he just argued with RJ and they accidentally lost all the food in the process. That was the only thing I'd say that bothered me, but it wasn't a giant flaw that brought down the rating. The movie story does good with a decent cast of characters and a lot of great scenes. This movie will be going into the B tier. This movie had a good introduction to the underground sewer city. The cast is actually stacked in this movie for no reason. Someone getting hurt and it making a funny sound always makes me laugh, and there are so many of those moments in this movie. Woody is the MVP of this movie, and the mime frog is very funny too. The city is a very good environment, and I like how the city is just made of trash. The movie is carried by jokes, but also has very good action scenes. The animation is very clean for the clay model style. The stupid and funny jokes make this movie very enjoyable, even though the plot was just stale and boring to me. The frog's interrogation scene on the boat is hilarious, and the mime does such a funny job trying to be intimidating. I think my attention span was just not it in the first watch, but the jokes were very good and funny. The stupidity of these characters make the movie fun to watch, so I would put it in B tier. The movie is way too overhyped in my opinion, or maybe not hyped, but got more attention than deserved. The story just makes no sense until the end, and the characters also make no sense. The jokes were just corny and there aren't as much laughable moments as other movies. The bees being able to talk and humans understanding them with no confusion was just weird. Like Vanessa thought she was dreaming at first, and the worker thought she was delusional, but then we get to the court trial and everyone is just normal with it. Near the end where Adam is complaining about not working also makes no sense, because I think he should have just said something about pollinating or something. Like, it took that long for people to realize that the bees not pollinating is just ruining the world. Ken is probably the only decent human character in this film, since he just sounds stupid and very exaggerated, so it's laughable. Mooseblood is probably the best character in this movie, since he's a vibe. The bee Larry King scene was probably my favorite, and Leighton in a baby walker was the funniest moment for me. The other funny moments were the granny getting assaulted for putting honey in her tea, and also the honey feds absolutely blicking Winnie the Pooh. The ending sequence of the bees assembling was pretty good, but the entire build-up just made no sense. The movie isn't bad, but it's nothing I would rewatch, so I'm gonna put it in the C tier. One of the funniest animated movies I have seen so far. The jokes were honestly top tier. The movie was so stupid, which made it hilarious. I love the president playing piano scene. Best scene in this movie though is them in the room introducing all the monsters. I couldn't stop laughing at the girl screaming, and it was funnier once the president screamed the exact same. Bob's origin story of being a ranch flavored dessert topping made me laugh because that is such an awful stupid flavor. Insectosaurus is the best character and he had no reason being that huge. Derek being egotistic as hell was great, and the best portrayal of that trait is the end where he forgives Susan for everything even though she did nothing wrong. Bob nearly killing a family trying to throw them off a bridge was also hilarious. This is easily the funniest animated movie I have seen up to this point in the marathon, and it will be going into the A tier. I like the concept of all these guardians having the job of protecting the children. I didn't know what guardian Sandman is, but I did not associate him with dreams at first. Obviously, I know Santa, the Tooth Fairy, Jack Frost, and the Easter Bunny. I think this lineup is good, and I think it's even better that the Boogeyman is the antagonist of this film. I like how they go through each guardian's job with the Tooth Fairy and Easter Bunny. Sandman's death was an absolute jaw-dropper, and it really emphasized how terrorizing the Boogeyman really is. I liked how Jack did end up discovering his own origin story of why he was chosen as a guardian. The Easter Bunny randomly becoming small was funny as hell, and I love that Sandman gets revived in the final battle. The final battle was a good sequence, and I like how they team up with the kids to bring light back into the world. It makes no sense that the parents are completely ignoring their children's absence, but from the first scene of Jack Frost making a kid slide through an entire town, I knew nothing in this movie would make sense for the real world. I like that the Boogeyman is menacing, but has a very clear weakness that is beatable. It balances him out, and he is ruthless but not unstoppable. I think the worst thing about this movie is the animation style, because everyone is really ugly. The Tooth Fairy has a very ugly design, and I think the scales are the stupid part to include on her. I like how the characters do have a more serious tone than the regular Reputation, but the Tooth Fairy just has nothing similar at all. This movie has a very good story and good characters, with the only bad thing being the Tooth Fairy design and real world parents in my opinion. The movie impressed me and will be going into the B tier. Honestly, just a good movie. Nothing really special, but also nothing bad. The cast is stacked for no reason, and the characters are very entertaining. The story is good, and a lot of the race scenes are very fun sequences. The only bad things in this movie are the actual logic when it comes to racing. Like, Turbo would die because of the air pressure under the car, and Gagne lifting his race car and dragging it like it doesn't weigh over 1,500 pounds. Also, Gagne literally trying to kill Turbo and also slapping him midair like that wouldn't be a DQ just adds illogical drama to the plot. But at the same time, this is a movie about a racing snail, so the logic can make no sense, but it doesn't affect the quality of the story. My favorite characters in this film are Tito and Whiplash. The character designs for the snails are also really cool, and I love the idea of having their shells as race cars. The movie isn't too special, but it is still a good movie. I will be sliding it into the B tier. This is a very corny feel-good movie, but it does its job. I was never a history guy, so some of these characters are unfamiliar to me or just surface level knowledge to me. I'm also Canadian, so I never learned about the presidents or French Revolution, just remembered learning about the World Wars pretty much. I think it gave a good fast introduction to Mr. Peabody's character and intelligence. I like how the story starts from the school fight and how Mrs. Grunion is realistic in thinking a dog shouldn't be raising a kid. I like how the bite is the main symbol of Mr. Peabody being violent at home, and I think it's funny to see how he invites the Petersons to try and avoid losing custody of Sherman. I think Penny is the best character in this movie since she has great character development. I like how Sherman starts embracing being a son to Mr. Peabody rather than just his dog, quote unquote. I spotted it immediately when he instantly drops the plane when Mr. Peabody says he can't fly. The final sequence is funny too, since you see all the historical figures in modern settings. Even after the ending, you can see them bring back something from the modern day, which is cool. I think this movie is worse than I remember, and not saying that it is bad, it's just a very generic quality for the story. I think this movie is close to being solid, but it's good enough to slide into the bottom of B tier. This movie is just very okay. I didn't like O's introduction since I'm not a fan of the obvious loser character trope. The party invite plot also felt too important for how short it concluded. The best sequence in this film is O and Tip befriending each other on the way to Australia. The best character in this film is Kyle, and I think that the funniest moment in the film is the bathroom gas station scene where O just eats the urinal mint. This movie is just not good, but not horrific, just very bland and nothing special. It's going into the C tier for me. This movie is really good. I love a lot about this movie. It gives a good quick introduction to each character and a quick backstory on the antagonist. The journey to get Everest back home is very enjoyable to watch. I love the symbolism of the violin and even basketball. Jin has great character development, and him being left behind really helped that evolution of him outgrowing the social media status. I think the antagonists make a lot of sense since they aren't too evil or exaggerated for this movie. There are also a lot of underrated jokes in this film, like the whoop there it is joke with the snakes and Jin having a blueberry BBL. The animation looks really good in this movie, and it made this movie more fun to go through. I think this is a great movie and it will be going into the A tier. I have not watched the show, and there was no way I was going through 88 episodes for this movie, so I decided to watch that 15-minute summary YouTube video that Netflix uploaded about the show. I think the concept is amazing, and I like how each side character now has a significant role. I really like how there's different types of worlds and enemies, starting with the trolls, then the aliens, then the wizards, and now the titans. The opening sequence of this movie is really good. It's super intense and includes all the important characters, making it feel like this is the start of the final battle and this entire movie would be one giant battle to conclude the show. The pregnancy scene is so dumb that it's hilarious, like getting Steve pregnant is pretty funny alien logic. Steve is easily funnier than Toby in this movie, even though I know Toby is supposed to be the main comedy of this movie. The Titans are a great final villain, and I feel like it is a perfect end villain for a world with a variety of magical beings. Nomura and Walter's death really caught me off guard since this is obviously a kids movie to me, so seeing a character get stoned then ripped apart, followed up by someone just exploding themselves is crazy. Those two death scenes really emphasize the Titans' power and durability as antagonists. The secret weapon is perfect. I'm not sure if the gun robot was mentioned in the show, but it seems that it was. This is my first introduction to this robot, and I think that it's a perfect counter to the Titans since it is the same size and it reminds me of Pacific Rim. Nari's death was also insane, bro. Like, they straight up just killed a child. I did not expect that, and this movie does a very good job at being a final battle. I think that it was very poetic for Jim and the other 8 to assemble for him to get his powers back. This movie has really good pacing, and I feel like the battle is ongoing and each inactive group is strategizing and then hops back into battle. Toby's death was obviously emotional, but my lack of connection didn't make it hit as hard to me. This movie has very brutal deaths for a kids movie, and it did catch me off guard. The final emotional talk really lost my attention since I was very confused about what they were trying to do. Then when he traveled back in time to reset everything, I understood what he was trying to do. And I think it's even cooler that he made Toby find the amulet instead, so it kinda sets up an alternate timeline of events for the show. I think that I would have connected with the characters more if I watched the show, so this movie didn't feel like a conclusion to me since it's my first introduction to this world. This movie is still good, and it'll go into the B tier for me. The introduction to these characters didn't really make sense to me. I don't understand how the humans were blinded from literal krakens because they used being Canadian as an excuse. From when her family finds out she turned into a kraken, I already can tell from the words in this movie that this was going to be based around periods and growing up for women. This movie had bad designs, but the characters are pretty good. I like Sam, Brill, Connor, and the Kraken Hunter captain. The best thing in this movie is the mermaid versus Kraken lore and the plot twist of Chelsea being Narissa. The music is also very bad as it sounds so generic and boring. This movie is very unbalanced in quality, and it does ruin it for me to the point I think it's bad. This movie will be going into C tier. It's okay. They made this very clear from the jump that this was going to be about anxiety, but holy smokes, his is so bad. Like, I overthink and I also deal with anxiety, but my god bro, just calm down for a bit. I like how he sketches his fears, and I like the animation of his drawings. As the movie progresses, the bigger I become an Orion hater. This kid literally hates everything. Like, it's crazy how much of a bum he is. The night entities just remind me of the Inside Out characters, but they are still a cool concept. I think it's a cool detail that you can subtly hear quiet speaking, especially since I had headphones on. I like the poem scene where it showed the repercussions of Dark being gone. The final sequence to get Dark back was decent since it brought back all the characters, and I liked how Quiet was the only one who made him wake up. The night entities definitely carried this film since the plot is just very mid to me. I think the subtle sketchbook animation styles that are prominently seen on the cars and other objects is pretty good too. I just think that Orion is very cringe throughout his entire introduction, and it doesn't make sense that he's scared of everything, but the Dark is what makes him overcome all his fears. I think that they gave him too many fears for Dark to be the solution for everything. And just when I thought the story wasn't making sense, they had Tico and this whole time traveling arc. I get it's supposed to be the story being told through generations, but they just made it so complicated. I thought this movie would be more focused on being a lesson about anxiety, but it became more of the characters trying to conclude Orion's original story. This movie is going to the bottom of C tier for me, almost a D tier. The intro already had me hooked as to what this movie would be about. The animation in this movie was the best I've seen so far by any Dreamworks movies up to this point. It was cool to see how Roz's studying got her to understand the animals and how you slowly hear the animals speaking English. I thought that Think would be the antagonist of this film, but it was great to see his evolution to help Roz raise Brightbill. Brightbill's endurance training was a great feel-good sequence. The farming escape scene was very intense. Longneck is such a great side character and really did well as a leader for the geese. Roz saving all the animals from the storm was nice too, and seeing all them get along was a nice visual and a great feel-good scene. The final battle was good and had a great title name drop. This movie did really good at giving nods to past events, like the tree being used to extinguish the flames, and the chipmunk and deer hitting the robot with the same combo they used on Roz. The story was phenomenal. There are so many memorable scenes, a great cast of characters, and amazing animation. This is one of the most impressive movies I've ever seen, and was very close to being an S tier, but I would easily put it at the top of A tier. Feels like a 9.5 type movie. This movie had pretty good animation, and the best music behind Prince of Egypt. This movie was still interesting even with the minimal dialogue throughout the story. Rain's near death was an intense scene, and is not the last time a stallion got shot. The story was very good, and I think my favorite part of this movie was the sequence of the cowboys trying to tame Spirit, and him just dogging them. The escape sequence was also pretty good, and I think I could rewatch this movie, hopefully with less lag. This movie is going into the B tier. This movie is awful. The animation style is horrible, and it gives me that bad Netflix kid show or Mike the Knight type vibe. The story completely destroys Spirit's character, as it just makes him a regular wild horse, rather than that strong protector of his family. This movie also decides to focus on the Prescotts rather than Spirit himself, so I don't know why this movie even includes him. This movie could literally be done with a regular horse. One thing that really annoyed me was Bubblegum, and I'm not trying to be that historian who wants everything to be time accurate, but it was so obvious that Bubblegum should not exist in this time period. This movie should not even be a Spirit movie. They could have just named it Lucky and made it about a regular wild horse. The story was so bland, and I hate that it completely destroys Spirit's character. This was easily the worst movie I saw up to this point, and is going into the F tier. I surprisingly never watched this movie in full, and man, it was a great funny movie. There are so many great jokes in this film, and it gives me the same energy as Monsters vs. Aliens. Hal's delusion was so ridiculous, and the amount of awful shots he takes at Roxanne is so crazy. Minion is my favorite character in this movie, and there are so many memes in this movie. Titan was very cringe at first since his Riz was so awful, but his evil character development was great. Metro Man doing music in private and faking his death was pretty funny too. The final battle was amazing, and I love how Megamind uses his disguises to bait Titan. Minion's death bait was stupidly emotional because they really let him have that whole speech, then threw him into water. This movie has great humor, a good story, and really great character developments. This movie for sure is an A tier. This is a weird one, but I decided to add it since it's technically still Dreamworks, but doesn't get acknowledged as a movie on their website, and I see why. It sucks that they couldn't get Will Ferrell back, but reusing the old scenes for the intro already shows the laziness of this movie. This animation gives me bad animated TV show vibes like Miraculous Ladybug and Paw Patrol. Switching Minion's name to Old Chum is an awful choice, like when do people ever switch a character's name? But apparently the name Minion got trademarked by Illumination, so I guess it makes sense, but like call him Mega Minion or just My Minion. The voice acting is awful and the story makes no sense. This definitely has to be a movie for an unofficial, low-budget TV show, because that's exactly what it feels like. Megamind's character is ruined like crazy, since he is literally too dumb to outsmart these awful villains, and even the toaster joke was bad, since it makes no sense how this guy is too dumb to use it, even though he's supposed to be a total genius. This should have just honestly been used as a long TV episode rather than a movie, since it for sure mixed people up thinking this was an official Megamind sequel. This movie is so bad that I feel like it shouldn't even count as a movie. I couldn't even finish it. Horrible voice acting, characters, bland story, and such awful animation. This movie is going to the very bottom of F tier. The introduction deaths were pretty funny. The creatures in this movie easily carry the film for me, and they make the world very interesting, and I love seeing hybrids between animals. The introduction to the red piranha birds was insane, because I did not expect them to annihilate the whale clam like that. I also love how Grug wants his mom-in-law to die the entire time. The saber-toothed cat is easily my favorite creature in this film, and it is the most adorable menace. Grug's character development makes sense, but it personally was just boring and annoying to watch him complain about Guy. Like, I get his stupidity losing to Guy's experience was supposed to be funny, but it felt bland to me. The best sequence in this movie is easily Grug and the Sabertooth working together to escape the eruption. The movie's unique characters and world really overshadow the bland character developments and storylines for me. This movie is solid, but not good enough for my liking, so it'll go to the top of C tier. The start to this movie was already funnier than the first. I was laughing at Guy licking the wrong hand and how the grandma was just sleeping with her eyes open. I was scared at first thinking Phil and Hope were from the present and the entire Croods movie was happening while Earth was completely normal. Dawn and Eep's relationship was also cool since I thought they were gonna go with the regular girl being jealous type trope. The humor in this movie is so much funnier than the first. The Bettermans are solid characters since I thought they were gonna be antagonists, but actually blended with the Croods near the end. The banana plot was very interesting and I really liked the Punch Monkeys. The Thunder Sisters and Banana Bros side plot was kinda corny, but it was worth for that fun final battle. My favorite new creature in this film is definitely the wolf spiders. I enjoyed the ending of all of them coming together and I think it's perfect to set up a third film, but also to end the franchise off like that. I enjoyed this much more than the first since it was funnier and the creatures were also much more involved with the plot. This movie will be going into the B tier. I really don't have much to say because this is a very mediocre fun movie. It's supposed to be very imaginative and fun, but the execution isn't good to be honest. None of the characters are outstanding and the story is very decent. The Forever Puppies are a decent plot and Francis's villain reveal was good. The movie didn't have any great jokes and the funniest thing in this movie is definitely Tim whispering how he was told babies were really made. Tim's imagination sequences are decent too, since it adds more action to the scenes. With a mid-story and catalog of characters, nothing in this movie becomes outstandingly good, and there isn't really anything terrible either. This movie is going into the C tier for me. I like how this movie really connects back to the first one, so it feels like a real sequel unlike the other movies. Tim's imagination being another big part of this movie is great, but the logic behind this movie completely disappears compared to the first. It is a very decent, fun, action-packed movie with more memorable sequences. But I feel like none of the things they go through happen in secret, which kind of ruins the logic of the first movie, where it felt like they tried disguising all their missions. This movie is better at being more fun and has more feel-good moments throughout. There isn't anything outstandingly good, but this movie is more fun than the first in my opinion, since it kind of destroys the secrecy, so they have more room to play with. This movie is still a C tier, but slightly better than the first. The characters in this movie are very good. I like how the main characters are all animals in a human world. Piranha is my favorite character in this movie, and the butt joke is the funniest thing in this movie for me. The action sequences and heist scenes are very good, and make this movie really entertaining. The amount of plot twists in this movie are really good as well, but I know they would only hit for the first watch. I had a feeling Professor Marmalade was gonna have something bad about him, but it was still cool to see the full reveal. I did not expect Diane to be revealed as the Crimson Paw, and I thought that Snake staying bad was the plot twist, but I was surprised how he made it part of his actual plan for the classic switcheroo. This movie is almost great for me, but it is still very good. It is like a high 7 for me, so it will go to the top of B tier. This movie is just as good as the first for me. As there are not huge plot twists, the new catalog of characters are good additions for this film. I think Piranha is still the best character, but Shark was also very funny. I could not stop laughing at the farting sequence in space, and the animation in this film is better in my opinion. I think this is a good sequel and still sets up a third movie, especially with the post-credits with Marmalade. The romance scenes are very awkward, but doesn't ruin the film completely. I think the Lucha Belt heist really showcases the improvement of animation compared to the first, especially since it seems they did different styles during the action sequences. Like said, this is just as good as the first, with nothing better or worse. This will also go to the top of B tier for me. This movie is very okay to me. It's a whole lot of nothing, but isn't a bad movie. There are still good jokes in this film, like the whoopee cushion orchestra scene, and the Ebola joke is the most elite line in this film. The final battle is decent, but the entire movie wasn't anything special at all. This movie is very mid, with one of the best jokes I've ever heard, but nothing super interesting outside of that. This movie is going into the C tier for me. I didn't have high expectations for this movie with how mid Captain Underpants was, plus I never read any of the books when I was younger. Lil Petey was the best character in this film, and Petey has a very good and interesting character development. This movie starts off very action-packed, and a lot of the sequences in this movie keep your attention with how much is going on. I think the team up between Dogman and Petey was fun to watch, and many jokes in this film are actually good, like the getting milk joke. This movie impressed me and actually had memorable moments. This is pretty good, so it will go into the B tier. This movie was actually a pretty entertaining musical. The story was really interesting too, and I like the concept of trollstice and how the trolls use their traits to help the Bergens adapt and find their own happiness. The Lady Glitter Sparkles arc was a fun way to merge both the trolls and Bergen characters together. The best parts of this movie are definitely the music scenes. The Get Back Up sequence is the best in my opinion, since the song is catchy and it's a funny way to speed up Poppy's journey to Bergen Town. The characters are also very unique, which help make the story more entertaining. This movie is good and will go into the B tier. I think the story was interesting, but I liked it less than the first one. The world and new characters really carried. I like the concept of different genres having a different world. Barb is a great villain, and her destruction on each town really shows her relentlessness. I think the funk and hip hop world was the best since they were prepared for the attack unlike every other genre. The coming together ending sequence was very predictable and it was decent. Poppy was the worst thing in this movie because some of her decisions made no sense, and I like how Branch was really trying to humble her stupid choices. This movie is slightly worse than the first in my opinion, but it's still good. This movie will go into the B tier as well. This was also a good movie that stays the same quality as the first two. This was a very consistent trilogy, and this movie had its fun moments as well. The first performance when Branch and John Dory reunite with Bruce was the best music performance in the movie and was one of my favorites in the trilogy. The hustle button sequence was cool since it went through a lot of different animation styles. This movie and the entire trilogy was a consistent feel-good, fun musical story to go through. Just like the others, this will also go in B tier. I watched this in theaters for a birthday party when it released, and since I fell asleep that entire party, I have been on a hate spree for the last 16 years. This was my first time watching it while awake, and I see why everyone hated me slandering this movie. The training sequences were fun to watch, the story was amazing, and the theme song was phenomenal. I love the final battle, and I really like how this final giant dragon was literally just D-Day for the Vikings. The character arcs that everyone goes through as Hiccup evolves is great, and there are so many memorable sequences in this film. I will now admit that this movie is not complete ass, and I'll put the hate spree to rest. This movie is going into the A tier. Phenomenal movie. This movie was not as good as the first one, but it is still great. The new characters and dragons are amazing and are the best things in this movie for me. Drago is an amazing villain, and him killing Stoic really established his character. There are many memorable scenes in this film, like the introduction to the Dragon Sanctuary and the wedding dance scene. The Alphas are amazing dragons that they added to this world and really did a lot for the plot. The story was still good and the characters really helped elevate the plot, but it's still hard to recapture the quality of the first movie. This movie will still go into the A tier though. This movie lost a bit of my attention during the plot, but it did pick up near the end. I think the story was interesting, but there wasn't many memorable scenes for me. My favorite part of the movie was the ending, since it was a great way to wrap up the trilogy. It was emotional watching Toothless and Hiccup part ways, and I think the ending definitely made sense for this world. I also like the shot of Toothless in the hidden world overlooking all the dragons. This movie was weaker than the first two, but did an outstanding job wrapping up the trilogy story. This movie is going into the B tier. This movie has a good catalog of characters, but the plot was just boring. The best scene in this movie is the intro scene of the police chase. It has a lot of New York culture in the small jokes and accents, and was also funny to see the unnecessary amount of officers needed to capture the animals. As soon as they get to the island, my interest in this movie drops as it becomes very boring since the story just becomes a waiting game. King Julian is the best character in this movie since his jokes and ego really carried a boring storyline on the island. The characters were great and I see why a sequel happened, but this was just not an interesting plot for the first movie in my opinion. This movie will go into the C tier. This movie was actually good, and was much more interesting to see how each of the main characters adapt with their own kind in the wild. I like how we explore Alex's origin stories, and build that relationship with his family. The ending escape sequence is very memorable and fun as well. The side characters are much more funny and better, like King Julian, the penguins, and the grandma. This movie was more fun and much more funny than the first. It will be going into the B tier. This was a great ending to the main trilogy and was a super fun, entertaining movie. The opening sequence is one of the best opening scenes out of all the Dreamworks movies with the casino heist. The jokes were hilarious and it was very action-packed throughout the police chase. Captain Dubois was immediately established as the franchise's best antagonist, as they emphasized her ruthlessness with the shot of her head collection and also highlighting her goal to kill a lion. I loved the circus crew and it was fun to see Alex motivate them into trying new acts for their show. I like Vitaly's character development as well, but my favorite side plot was definitely King Julian and Sonia's relationship. It was so funny seeing the adorable romance between the main comedy character and a whole bear that doesn't even talk. I also like the relationships they build with the circus crew, since it made sense for Gia and Alex to grow along together, and Marty and Stefano being the goofy buddies throughout the film. This movie was a great ending to the trilogy and was super fun to watch. This movie will be going into the A tier, a huge improvement from the first two. One of the funniest Dreamworks movies of all time. There's so many good funny jokes since their stupidity created their whole team. The new team of Classified, Eva, Corporal, and Short Fuse are great additions, and I loved when they got sucked up by the pest machine during their cool explosion. I love the small running joke of Skipper constantly forgetting Dave's name, and having the last attempt be Ramirez was hilarious. There's so many jokes that caught me off guard, like Kowalski telling Private that he has no family, Kowalski saying we should kiss, a kid pulling a dynamite out of Rico's mouth, and the Penguins getting into the van for Shanghai just for the van to circle back where they already were. Dave having his mic muted and Skipper interrupting Classified by eating the cheesy dibbles are definitely the two scenes that made me laugh the hardest. I think the worst parts of this movie are the actor name pun jokes that Dave makes and also the entire Mutant Ray plot. This entire series has stayed within the actual animal realm, so I think they shouldn't have gone for mutations. It didn't affect the rating that much since the jokes in this movie made it very memorable. The story itself is good, with Private having an amazing character arc and also Northwind being this cool high-tech agency. This movie feels like the Cars 2 plot done actually well, since it fits the personality and skills of the Penguins. This is top 2 funniest Dreamworks movies along with Monsters vs. Aliens, and I enjoyed this film a lot. This is going high up in the A tier for me. This was such a fun movie and has a perfect mix of action and comedy. I love the training arcs, and I think it's funny how Poe's secret awakening is food. I think Tai Lung is a phenomenal villain, and the prison escape and Furious 5 fight scene are amazing and really stamps his power as a warrior. The catalog of characters in this movie are amazing, and the plot was really entertaining. I love how Tai Lung doesn't really get nerfed in his fight with Poe, since he's literally diffed from stage hazards and stupid things that he wouldn't even train for. This is easily rewatchable whenever for me. Not a single bad thing in this movie, such fun action and entertainment from start to finish. This will be going into the S tier. This was a really great sequel that kept up the quality of entertainment and action. I like the opening battle against the bandits since this was the first battle where we see the Furious 5 and Poe fight as a team. I like how they slightly explore Poe's origin, as it was a big question as to why a goose is his dad, and where are all other pandas. I think Shen is an amazing villain as well, since he has a good origin story and something new to bring to the table with the cannons. His ruthlessness was established in his first scene with him instantly killing the rhino, and even in the final battle where he just slashes the wolf and sacrifices the army. I think the funniest thing in this film is when Poe is trying to make his pre-fight speech all the way at the rooftop, and Shen is just there wondering what the hell he is saying. The final battle was also really fun, and I like how his kung fu powers actually countered the cannonballs. I really like this movie, and although it's not as elite as the first for me, I can still see this being a movie I watch repeatedly. This movie will be going into the A tier. This wasn't as entertaining as the first two for me, but it was still fun to watch. I think Kai carries this movie on his back, as he's really interesting with his Jade Warriors and Kratos Blades. His theme song is also a top 2 Dreamworks theme song for me, along with the How to Train Your Dragon theme. I think that the pandas are really goofy, but I thought they were going to be funnier. I really like how Poe teaches the pandas how to do kung fu and having the teams be named after food. I think that the final battle when Poe turns into a dragon was really cool, and I think the funniest joke in this film is the constant confusion when Kai introduces himself. This movie was still good, but wasn't the same quality I hoped for, especially with the first 2 movies being great. This movie will go into the B tier for me. I thought this movie would have been like a Toy Story 4 where it was unnecessary and the franchise was better off as a trilogy, but I was impressed by how the quality in storytelling and action kept up. Obviously, I think Awkwafina's voice was too raspy and it just didn't fit Zen's appearance at all. Another flaw is the absence of the Furious 5, but if you look at their voice actors, then you would see that they definitely did not have the budget for that anymore. Even with their absence, I think it was cool to see Poe go down a vigilante path for a change, since it would have probably been the same protector for the Valley type fights. The bar fight was cool, and even the police escape was entertaining. I think Chameleon is a phenomenal villain, and I love how her sorcery brought back all the original villains. I was honestly hoping that Tai Lung, Shen, and Kai teamed up with Poe, but that's just a cool team up wish for me. I think the final battle was really cool, especially when Chameleon combines all the powers together. Li Shan had a huge improvement in this movie, and I think it was funny hearing him say all these hard quotes to try and intimidate others. The movie was honestly impressive and held up, especially with the absence of Furious 5. The movie was good and will go into the B tier for me. I surprisingly have never watched any of these movies from start to finish. They've always just been in the background during parties or something. I obviously have a lot of knowledge of the characters because of how famous their franchise is, so the Fiona plot twist and Donkey Dragon romance is already prior knowledge to me. I think the story was very well done, and I love the music in this movie. Obviously, All Star is the best song in this movie, but the outro was good as well. I think the best placed music in this film is the scene after Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey all split after they argue. There are also so many dirty jokes in this film that I've seen from YouTube breakdowns, and some actually funny ones as well. Donkey kills it in the comedy, and he's easily the best character, but I think the best joke is Lord Farquaad saying it's rude to be alive when no one wants you. This was my first time seeing the movie in full, and I really enjoyed it. This movie is going into the A tier. This was just as great as the first one for me. I really like Puss in Boots in this movie, and he's a great addition to Shrek and Donkey's group. I think the story was really good, and Fairy Godmother was a really good villain. I think that the jokes were funnier in this movie as well. I liked when the blind mouse fell straight through the jail ceiling, and it was funny when Pinocchio got exposed for wearing a thong. The gingerbread man had a better role in this movie, and I really enjoyed the team up sequence of trying to get to the castle. My favorite scene in this movie is the arrest scene where Puss in Boots gets caught with cocaine, and it's a whole actual chase scene. I think this movie was equal in quality to the first, but with more memorable jokes. This movie is also going into the A tier. This movie was so boring to me, I'm not gonna lie. It followed the exact same storyline where they have to find someone, the group argues and splits up, they get captured, and then they team up to take down the villain in the end. This time though, it was very bland, since Arthur was not an interesting character at all for me. The only decent thing in this movie in my opinion was Puss and Donkey being switched, but it was hard to pay attention since the movie was just very boring. The funniest part was Harold's death, as it was funny to see him constantly wake up after supposedly dying. This movie was just a boring version of the repeated blueprint they used for this franchise's plots. This movie is going into the C tier. This movie still isn't the same quality as the first two, but at least they switched up the story this time. I like the concept of resetting the universe, and now Shrek has to get everyone back again. There wasn't anything too memorable in this movie for me, but I do like how there's more ogres this time. Cookie is my favorite character in this movie since he's just promoting his chimichanga stand. This movie was solid since it did have a different concept, but it didn't do much to match the quality of the first two. This will be going into the C tier as well. This movie really didn't astonish me as much as I thought it would. The animation looks good and the action sequences are cool, but the story itself lost my attention span sometimes. I like the origin story of Puss and Humpty Dumpty's brotherhood and how it led to the bridge incident. I saw the plot twist coming of the betrayal, so it didn't really surprise me since we already seen Puss get betrayed. I think that the final sequence with the Mother Goose was fun, and I was surprised with Humpty's sacrifice because I thought he would have stayed a villain, to be honest. There wasn't anything too memorable for me, but it wasn't bad at all. Just nothing enough for me to watch it again anytime soon. This movie will be going into the C tier for me. This movie was a bit overhyped in my opinion, but it is still a good movie, just not the phenomenal quality I was hearing about. I really like the antagonists in this movie since they have two different development arcs, with Goldilocks and the Three Bears end up becoming good, and Jack Horner standing on business until his demise. I think that Perito is an amazing side character, and I think his funniest jokes are when they just start spamming the censor beep whenever he just rambles. Obviously, the best thing in this movie is death, and his aura is off the charts. I love how he is portrayed and how he strikes fear into Puss throughout the whole movie. The final half of this movie is great, and I love how everyone's character development goes, and the final battle is fun. This obviously wasn't the greatest animated movie ever quality that I was hearing about, but it is still a good movie. This will go near the top of B tier for me. Let's take a final look at the full tier list really quick. Now, that was a long marathon, and I'm definitely going for a shorter marathon for the next video. The Dreamworks movies have some of the ugliest animation styles for a lot of movies, but also some of the funniest jokes ever. I definitely had a blast laughing at the great jokes some movies offer, but I also tortured myself watching some of the wretched creations, and I regret even including Megamind 2 in this. There's a lot of movies that impressed me and a couple that disappointed me, but that's what'll happen with 52 movies to go through. I will say that I learned a lot about these movies, especially with franchises like Shrek and How to Train Your Dragon, which are movies I surprisingly didn't grow up watching. Let me know if you have any suggestions for the next marathon, because right now I'm thinking of the Spider-Man movies, Jurassic franchise, or the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. This was a fun video to make and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. If you did, leave a like and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you disagree with my takes, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about your connection with these movies. That's all for today, and I'll see you guys next time.